Anyway, good evening, and thank you very much for coming. My name is Manchet Diawara. I'm the director of the Institute of African American Affairs. And welcome to the second day of the Scholar in Residence with Professor Angela Davis. I think for those of you who were here last night when Angela and Danny Glover were talking about the crisis in representation and what new images to create, what movements, what connections to make, you had every reason to come back today again to see the follow-up of that. The artists in residence, the scholar in residence, we conceived them in 1996. I came here in 1992, and with people like Jane Cortez, Walter Mosley, who's here, Clyde Taylor, we wanted something creative. You know, instead of just bringing people to give talks, ask the artist or the scholar to make a dream. You know, say, what would you like to do if you were to stay at NYU for 1 week, for 1 month, for 2 months, and so on. And people from Walter again to Amiri Baraka, to Randy Weston, to David Leverin Lewis, to Wole Soyinka, Salif Keita, they all come, they say, I would like to do this, I would like to do that. And Angela told us she wants to deal with images, movies, and filmmakers and writers. So we put her together yesterday with Danny Glover and watched a film called Bamako, which I would recommend to you highly. And the discussion was just incredible. You know, I spent my whole life in cinema studies, but what I heard last night was like going to school. It was just wonderful. Tonight, I'm really fortunate because Angela is going to be introduced by my friend Walter Mosley. Last night, she was introduced by another very good friend, Deborah Willis. And Walter, as you all know here, is Balzac. You know, he's very young, but he's my younger brother. But he has written more than 40 novels. I know he's going to come back on that. But he, has also created some of the major characters in American literature, and really is a wonderful supporter of the Institute of African American Affairs. He doesn't need introduction, but I just have to express to him my gratitude for all the wonderful things that you've been doing with me personally, but the university. And thank you very much for introducing our giant tonight. Thank you, Walter Mosley. Forgot to thank NYU and Jaira Placid for putting this event together. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. You must have heard that I was coming. That's why you all came out, I'm sure. I was telling Angela that the good thing about my introductions is they're always very short. I also read them, so like they actually make sense sometimes. There's a couple of things, though. While I was here yesterday, I got to talk about what Monty says, and also one thing that Angela represents. I got an email from my friend Paul Coates, who used to be the head of the Panthers in Baltimore back in the late 60s, early 70s. I know back then a friend of his, Eddie Conway, got sent to prison for a double murder, and he just got out yesterday. Yeah. You know, I wanted to make sure. I mean, actually, he got out today. I wanted to make sure, so I called Paul and said, "Is he out?" And he put Eddie on the phone. And he said, "Man, I'm out. I'm out." And he says, and I was reading Easy Rawlins in prison, which made me very happy. It's just that. I mean, we were talking yesterday about remembering people in prison, because there are a lot of people in prison for a really long time. And there's a lot of people not in prison at all who should be there. I mean. And, you know, it's like, and so anyway, and right, and I have one note about my thing. I mention white people in here. And I want you to know, even though I'm doing it, that you have to understand, I don't believe in the existence of white people. I just don't believe it. I don't think there are white people. I mean, there are people who think they call themselves white, but it's kind of like being in a club, you know, like I'm in the Boy Scouts or I'm a Christian or, you know, whatever, you know. It's not like you were born that thing. They don't look alike. They don't act alike. They certainly aren't white. You know, it's like saying black people. Well, you know, I say, well, you call me a black people? Say, well, yeah. I say, you know what I mean. And I say, yeah, I know what you mean, but, you know, there's a notion. So I mention white people, but I don't believe in them. Okay, so you have to listen very close because it's going to be really fast. One of the most dangerous words in cultural, artistic, and political studies and criticism is transcendence. It sounds like some great university compliment to be proclaimed a transcendent artist, activist, or thinker. But quite often, this high praise is used to undermine the recipient and that person's identity and society, while at the same time raising the intellectual capital of the person or organization granting the praise. To transcend is, after all, to rise above. Or, as my portable electronic dictionary tells me, transcendent is to be beyond and outside the ordinary range of human experience or understanding. In other words, to call any political activist or thinker transcendent is to effectively remove that individual from their culture, their beating heart, their raison d'etre. Not only is it a curse for the recipient, but it is also a bold attack on the thousands, maybe millions of people who both feed and sustain the mind that has somehow concretized the articulation of their plights and therefore their hope. And it is not only our enemies who try to brand our leaders with this brilliant misnomer, but we are also ready and willing to let go of our flesh and blood brothers and sisters to redefine them out of normal existence into an ether that we can neither enter nor survive in. As a matter of fact, the only difference between us and our enemies in this hyperbolic activity is our relation to the object of exaggeration and caricature. We are losing our transcendent artists, thinkers, and leaders by removing them. Our enemies, on the other hand, have neutralized the threat and possibly might even have created an ally. They, our enemy, have climbed up on the roof and lassoed our so-called leader by the throat with a silken rope and are pulling her up by the neck. If she survives, she will be with them, but either way, she will no longer be with us. In black terms, this appropriation, this mind fuck, is a form of passing. Offered freely, this carrot of weightlessness asked the heir of transcendence to abandon her blood while offering her culture something to aspire to. What is this aspiration? The greener pastures of so-called white supremacy, which dons the false robes of universal knowledge, sophistication, and even heroism. Her knowledge, her beauty, her suffering, her determination are all turned against us. In praise, we lose her and then wonder why we are lost. You can see the conundrum I found myself in when sitting down to pen this introduction. I wondered how I might give praise to such a great leader, such an icon as I believe Angela Davis is, without assassinating with one word our sister's work and therefore our hope. How can I remain faithful to the crusade against the one true enemy, which is no doubt national and international capitalism, while recognizing the magnitude of this great woman? It came to me to say what I believe is always the message embedded in Professor Davis's talks. That is, to look for yourself in her words and to ask of yourself any question you might have for her. It is up to each and every one of us to assume the accolades that we attribute to her, to become the heroine that we imagine stands before us. If we can manage to make ourselves into the champion we imagine, then the act of transcendence becomes social. Where Angela goes, we follow so closely that we cross the border as one. Angela Davis.